Welcome to You Don't Know Ball. Today we're going to be talking about the championship games that just happened because there are no games next week. We have Detroit and San Francisco, KC at Baltimore. But if you do want to know ball, don't forget to subscribe. We're bringing you daily content. Leave a like, leave a comment who you think is going to win the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. First, let's get it going. Detroit at San Francisco. What a mind-numbing performance from the Lions. Not their players, from their coaching staff. How mind-numbing. That like, I keep saying it, but like the more and more I think about this game, how else can you describe the decisions made by Dan Campbell other than mind-numbing?
Yeah, so I don't know if you could see, bro. I'm having like a little eye twitch here, and I think it's because how much that I just literally, this game is making me anxious over again. Like, I can't even process what had happened. Like, jokes aside, bro, let's be serious for a sec. I think what really is so painful about this one, so let me just give some personal anecdote first. I don't know how you feel about this. Mm-hmm. This was the most painful game to watch for me since the Saints got hosed out of the NFC chip. But the difference was with that one, again, like I was saying to you when we were walking in, the difference with that is like that's just something you really can't control. You know, right. It's like cosmic wasn't meant to happen, and that makes it a little bit more redeeming mentally. But with this one, it was like, oh man, like. Oh, they pissed it away, and you knew the moment they pissed it away, too. It's where it gets so much worse. I think what I wanted to lead with is, look, if there's anything that this game emphasized for the course of history for every coach ever to be able to go back and look at, even if this was a regular season game and you're on the road and you have all the momentum against a much better team, the last thing you should be ever doing is playing with it. And they had all the momentum. I mean, literally, if this was like the Madden scoreboard where the momentum is shifting, it was literally all the way on the fucking Lions side. And then you have a chance to go up 3 possessions midway through the third quarter. Simple logic to me. And again, like we said, you don't trust. It comes down to, look, the reality is, too, like, obviously they did trust Michael Badgley. They don't trust their kicker with those deep intermediate kicks. Because for whatever reason, he's the worst deep intermediate kicker in the entire league. Very weird with his percentages. But again, sometimes in life, there are definitely just times you got to trust the man to do his job. And I always believe, too, sometimes it's like, you know what? Some guys are meant for it. It's like when the pressure's on, they actually elevate. And you had to give Badgley a shot and see if that's the type of guy he is. Like, you know what? Badgley, the pressure's on. I need you. It's time to elevate. Instead, they literally squandered all the momentum. And you felt it right when it happened. Because here's what makes it worse, too. And you knew it, is that it wasn't just that they didn't convert the fourth down. It was that it was an easy conversion and it was dropped. And so everybody starts going, oh, my God. And on your sideline and the fan base, they go, is it not our time? There's this thing that takes mentally where it's like it wasn't just like it got tipped or the play didn't get executed well. It was like, no, everything was drawn up perfectly and it just didn't execute. That's where it gets really like.
So I see it like there's been like a lot of discourse on whether he made the right decision, like not kicking the field goals. Like I understand that like maybe your kicker isn't the greatest from like 40 plus, but here's where it doesn't make sense to me. You can argue that, you know, it was the right decision to go for it on 4th and 3, the right decision to go for it on 4th and 2 instead of taking the points, right? Like, regardless, if you look at the game, they lost by 3, they left potentially 6 points on the field. But where I have the issue with people making that discussion, saying that the 4th down was the right decision to go for it and not kick the field goal is you are up by 2 scores going into half, okay? You are on the 49ers 3-yard line. There's no chance. The 49ers get the ball regardless. There is 0 chance that the 49ers drive at the end of the half because there's 7 seconds left. Why in the decision when you are on the goal line do you line up for a field goal? I feel like that's like, if you make that, it's 28-7 going into half. That's 3 touchdowns. And I understand it's 3 scores regardless if you kick the field goal. But my thing is, if you're going to kick the field goal there and take the points, why are you not taking the points when you have the opportunity to keep continually adding points to your lead? Like, this is a team who has been here before. This is a team who is better on paper than you. And yet you decide, and I understand you've been rolling the dice all year, but my thing is, you're not at the Super Bowl yet. These are Super Bowl decisions. You're in the NFC Championship.
Even then, like, bro, and I agree with what you're saying. I think, though, it's like, hear me out. I think it doesn't matter whether it was a fucking preseason week 1 or the Super Bowl. Those decisions have got to come with a very, very, like, rigid sense of where the momentum is at. And it's like when you look, we were like everyone saw it. You could see how visibly shaken and out of the game the Niners were. Even Shanahan, every time the camera panned to their fucking leader, he was shaking his head, looking around like, what am I going to do? And, what is he going to do? Well, what you do is you just pray the other coach decides to start pissing away possessions. Because that's the thing, like, I always look at it. It's simple to me, bro. It always has been. It really is. Like, at the end of the day, playoff games are a possession game. The team that gets more possessions and dominates the possessions is going to win the game. And it's like, when you... there's really no words for it. Like, and because that's my thing is, I want to be clear. Like, it's not all on Dan Campbell at all. Like, I'm not trying to sit here trying to say, like, if Josh Reynolds didn't have butter on his fingers, we'd be looking back saying that Dan Campbell is the ballsiest, best decision maker in the league.
Jameson Williams also dropped the touchdown on that flea flicker.
No, and that's the thing. Nobody even talked about it because it was such a bad drop that it didn't even look like a drop. It was more like
Went
he couldn't even locate the ball in midair, which is really tough when you were a first-round pick as early as Jameson was. We're not even going to get on that right now because that's a whole different can of worms, I feel like, more for the offseason when we start talking about the future of the Lions. As of right now, immediately, though, I think that you can say, minus Amon-Ra and Sam Laporta, obviously the core officially leaves a lot to be desired still. They have a lot of O-line guys they got to pay. And again, if that's why everyone would say, and the Lions fans would agree so much, like that's what hurt so much about them blowing this one, is that whether they were going to go win or lose in 2 weeks, this was their shot to have some hardware. For everyone to see the Lions lift some hardware and say, like, wow, like they really, really accomplished something.
Yeah.
And again, you can be a moral victory guy all you want. Everybody in that locker room is standing here right now. They would say that there wasn't really much accomplished this season because the reality of the situation is you want to go all the way as a profession. And again, I'm not here for the moral victories. And I think that's what makes it hurt even more. If you're someone who wants to sit here and, just harp on what, yay, like, Whippy, it was a good season. That shit doesn't, I'm sorry, that doesn't mean anything. As someone who's seen their team go all the way and someone who's seen the team fail miserably multiple times. The ones that failed multiple times, it doesn't really matter how great the season was, right? It does. I don't really ever reflect on how those great moments. It's the one, you go back to the one where they finally got the job done. And yes, that's why this really hurts Lions fans, and I'm here for you. I understand how much this hurts. But the reality of the situation is that's why you can't be pissing away possessions. And I think I was going to lead with another point here. It's a very, very, like, far off side note. But, like, maybe this game is the game where it kind of, again, emphasizes going forward. If you're a team that's really competing, and you know what you're competing for, you're trying to have Lombardi hopes. And there are kickers across the league. We see it all the time. Like, there will be good kickers on, like, a very bad team. A kicker who's very consistent on a team that's not doing anything. If you're a team that knows you're going to be competing for Lombardi, you don't have faith in your kicker,
trade.
Why not trade, like, a 6th, 7th round pick for them and have faith in that position? It's special teams, offense, defense, all 3 phases. If you're the Lions and you're going into the game with 2 phases,
well, also you got to think,
it's pretty hard to win the Super Bowl.
Most of these games come down to 3 points anyway. Like, have the guy you trust to make that 50-yarder. I don't know. Like, if you look at kind of like I agree with that. That's actually something that I think we've seen more often, even in this offseason, is like people trading their kickers. Like you saw, like the Saints did it with Lutz, and Peyton went and got his guy, regardless if the Broncos made the playoffs or not. Like, you trust Will Lutz to go make a field goal.
And we saw how much, and Will Lutz redeemed himself a lot. He had one kind of offseason,
right?
Completely, and he was injured. Completely redeemed himself. It's worth the trade.
But I mean, you saw Moody missed the field goal at the start. Like,
that's when that's when it was really shifting for where you were feeling like the Niners. You're like,
oh yeah. I mean, I was surprised he nailed the other kicks, but so just for the Lions have a lot of free agents, so do the Ravens, but we'll get to that. Just on the O-line, Jonah Jackson, Graham Glasnow, Dan Skipper, do you know how to say it? Vaitai?
I'm not going to lie.
I'm not even going to try that.
I've heard it before. I don't want to butcher it.
Vaitai and Matt Nelson. Now, obviously not all these guys are starters, but like that's a good chunk of your O-line. And another thing for the Lions that is going to be a problem is you are probably going to have to extend Jared Goff. And with the way he's played, and the craziest part about this game is like Jared Goff played at a very high level. Like
it's one of those games where the stats don't show it, but he did.
Like Jared Goff, like I don't think could have played a better game. Like that is like you squeezed every little bit out of Jared Goff that game.
You're just adding to the list of things that makes it hurt so much. Oh, and last thing before I start giving the Niners their credit, because I want to transition to the Niners, give them their credit, and I want to talk about the Niners. But last thing on the Lions is another thing that really just it's the final nail in the coffin of the pain. It's like they were literally having their way. Like, their O-line was dominating the Niners' D-line, which was something I don't think many people saw coming. I think you would say you saw it coming to be a fair fight, where it'd be very 50-50. I didn't see it where the Lions were just going to come absolutely displace the line of scrimmage every play. That's what was happening, and for whatever reason, Ben Johnson decided to just kick the can on that in the second half. Very, very confusing.
Yeah, I mean, my thing also is, like, what was very surprising to me is, like, the Lions actually did a pretty good job, like, shutting down Christian McCaffrey. Like, he had
especially the first half.
Yeah, like, he had a couple explosive plays, but, like, okay. I think it is so fair to say that Dan Campbell lost them this game. Like, don't get me wrong, like, the Lions definitely started to crumble in the second half with some bad drops, like some really bad drops. But, like, is this not the best game we've ever seen Jameson Williams play? Like, is this not, like, the most amped up we've seen the defense play? Like, it's just, like, everybody came to play, and, like, crucial decisions made by your coach cost them the game.
That's why I was saying with the thing where it's like sometimes I get being aggressive, but that's why sometimes making the right decision, and if it doesn't go right, at least you made the right decision. Because that's what I'm saying. Like, in Dan Campbell's mind, obviously, taking the 3 and taking the 2 field goals wasn't the right decision, right? Because we've gotten to a phase 2 where analytics is kind of has taken over in a crazy way. And I'm for analytics most of the time, but like everybody says, that at least is logical about it. I'm only for analytics when you're considering momentum. Like, if we're just looking at it blindly, it doesn't make any sense. Momentum has got to start being something considered. And I think it is by plenty of great coaches. And again, I want to be clear. I don't even know if Dan Campbell is making those decisions off analytics. That could just be Dan Campbell balls to the wall, which we know he is. But regardless, that's why sometimes you have to be willing to let guys do their job.
Yeah.
And you got to be willing to let your kicker do their job.
Before we go into the Niners, like, this is something that is, like, super important in my opinion, is like I said, you gotta re-sign a lot of that O-line. You gotta fill some pieces in there. You gotta pay Jared Goff. Ben Johnson might be gone. Like,
I think we're looking at probably about a 95% chance.
95% chance he's the Commanders' head coach next year. And in my opinion, I don't like. Ben Johnson came in and fixed Goff, right? Like, he solved issues that McVay wasn't solving. If you bring in a new OC and you give Goff a mega extension and he is not able to work with Goff the same way that Ben Johnson did, which I doubt is possible, the Lions are in a real tough spot. And like Dan Campbell said, which we talked about, which we think is idiotic, that this was their best shot. Like, whether that's true or not, like, you don't say that to a locker room who you just blew the game for.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The last thing, because we have to get into that. Niners, I promise we're getting to you. We're gonna
this
give
is just so crazy.
Niners, we're gonna give you your credit. I promise. You guys played a fantastic game and an amazing, legendary comeback. We're gonna get to that. Yeah. Last thing, Dan Campbell with that. It was kind of the equivalent to when Lamar said out loud he doesn't like competing against Mahomes. This, to me, was the same thing where it's like, number one, you don't speak it out into existence. I think, like, some things are just better left in the mental. Like, it's literally speaking doubt out into existence. And you're either someone who believes in that type of thing or you don't. Me, personally, I'm a big believer in that words mean a lot. Words have impact on your life. That's why you speak good even when you're not feeling good. You bring positive energy into your life.
Right.
And, again, whether you believe in that or not, I think there's an impact of how it affects people mentally no matter what. When you have a group of 53 men in a room, yes, that does affect the way that they are going to view next season. And to be putting doubt into the heads of guys who already are going to have a lot of doubts, it's just, I think if anything too, it kind of shows. I think Dan Campbell does obviously have a little bit of trouble, like maybe processing these type of moments. Like, he's such an amped up, like, he's such a fiery guy that it's like the dichotomy of it. That it's like when something like this happens and there's a letdown like this, it's almost like like someone like him mentally struggles to process it. And I think even kind of little side note, maybe I might be sideways on this one. Maybe I'm a little bit wrong. But that's why part of the reason I say it. Maybe he was just trying to get to different guys first, all that. But I don't know if you peeped or anybody even peeped, but when the game was over and, Shanahan was going right to midfield right away to go shake his hand. Oh, the ads are hitting us with the cheese.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
He went to, like, go, he's, like, Shanny's just waiting in the middle of the field, and he's kind of, like, looking around, like, where is Dan Campbell? And it took DC, like, 45, 50, like, it took him, like, a long time to get over there, and he was kind of, like walking to, like, walk inside, like, saying, like, hi to some other players first. And I'm like, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of like it's kind of your job to like get out there right away and go, like shake Shanny's hand, no matter how much that shit just hurt. Like it's kind of like it was almost like he really was struggling to process it. Like, damn, like we really just lost, and I gotta go, like shake up the other coach. It's like I you know what I mean? I think part of him, it's like it kind of he does struggle with because he's such a fiery guy. Like stuff like this is hard to process.
I don't want to relate them, and then after this point, let's just get to the Niners because we could talk about the decisions of the Lions all day. Here's my thing. I think the way Dan Campbell conducts himself is great until they're not successful. Like we saw that with Sirianni. Like everyone thought Sirianni was, oh, I love the way how he's fiery and talks shit. And I don't think a lot of people were calling for his job after this year.
And I want to relate this to something else now, but then we'll move on to the Niners. I think that's also why you can look and if you pointed fingers and you said, oh, let's look at the two most successful coaches of our era. Let's look at Bill Belichick and Andy Reid. What do they have in common? They literally don't talk about stuff that's not football related. Like they're like, you know what? Not even just not football related. That's not directly related to everything that goes on only with the team. They're like, oh, what did you think about X and X where there was drama? I don't care. Like I don't care. I don't think about that shit. What we do here is we think about the football, and that's all we think about. And I'm not going to sit here and get more to think emotions involved. Like I don't have an emotional response to what that ref did. I don't have an emotional response to what my player did. I don't have an emotional response to what the fan base did. Like you keep emotion out of it. It's a job, and it sounds crazy, but to an extent, I do believe that's back to the energy thing. You keep an even keel energy. You kind of you let BS kind of it doesn't BS comes and it goes. But when you're someone who's very emotional. Good when the good's happening, it's really good. But then when the bad's happening, like you're saying, everybody starts to really absorb it because there's too much emotion going on.
All right, let's get to the Niners. We spent probably about 20 minutes on the Lions.
We had to, bro.
Yeah, it was just brutal. So what do you want to talk about first with them? Because obviously this is a really big comeback for them, being down, 24-7 at half, and then holding the Lions scoreless in the third, putting up 17, and then putting up another 10 in the fourth. Congrats on the Super Bowl, but you were also kind of gifted it. I don't want to take it away from it.
I think Niners fans would be fully willing to agree that
they
like
were
yes.
gifted to this. I'm not saying you were gifted the season and being here in this game, but there was crucial mistakes made by the Lions that allowed you guys to come back. The Lions really killed their own momentum. But I will say, the Niners came out way more juiced up in the second half. I think there was a point where the Lions got a little bit complacent with their lead, and once they got shut down, they're like, oh no, we're the Lions. But, okay, so I will say this. I think Purdy – here's my thing. It's been well documented. I am not a Purdy guy. I don't have an issue with Purdy himself. I have issues with the Purdy hype beast who are like, oh, he's top 15. Like this, Purdy stepped up when it mattered. I will say that. But we can't ignore that, like, he put multiple balls in harm's way that were dropped by the defense, and he's done that almost every single game in these playoffs. Like, the issue with the Niners is, like, they almost lost to the Packers. They almost lost to the Lions. Like, if you are so good of a team, you can't be in that territory where you're close to losing to these teams who are not even close to your roster talent-wise. Here's what I will say, and I will probably get destroyed for this, but I'm going to be very true. I put it in our chat last night, and nobody wanted to respond to it. Brock Purdy is more of a dual-threat quarterback than Justin Fields.
Because I didn't even see you say that. No,
Brock Purdy can win from the pocket, but Brock Purdy's legs won that game last night. He's the reason that they won. A dual threat quarterback wins from the pocket and then also wins with his legs. If you can't win from the pocket and you just run, you are not a dual threat quarterback. Brock Purdy showed what it meant to be a dual threat quarterback last night. He made the throws from the pocket. He stood in there, took the hits, made the throws. Props to Brock Purdy. I know I was shitting on him a little bit, but like I'm trying to be objective here. Like he showed up. Like when his legs were there, he showed up.
Let's say, here's my thing, bro, to go off that, and you would agree. The most important trait, far and away, and it's the thing is, it's so hard to scout this. That's what makes it so hard to find the ones that can really get the job done when it's crunch time. But the number one trait to have as a quarterback is that no matter how the scoreboard looks, you take it one play at a time, right? Like that's back to the mental thing. Like it's not about like there really is no outlook of like the result of the game. Like you don't go into the game like I'm worried about the result. You're literally such a professional that it's like I'm only worried about the next play. Brock Purdy proved that that's the type of quarterback he is. Those are the type of quarterbacks that win Super Bowls.
Right.
That's why the 49ers are finding themselves in the Super Bowl. Because the reality situation is you don't need, again, we've seen, you don't have to have the greatest skill set in the world. What you do need to have is composure and the ability, I'm repeating myself over and over, but I'm going to emphasize it, just to take things literally one play at a time. Because the only thing you can control is the next play. Every great quarterback knows that. And here's the thing. This is really what I'm going to say. Brock Purdy, in a sense, did elevate himself into the greatness territory because of that last night. I agree with everything that you said. And his thing is, he definitely is still he is a flawed quarterback. There's no doubt about that. But I think in the same sense, I'm gonna try to give even almost how about like a comparison point of like the type of arc of career he couldn't have. But how about I'll compare him to a type of quarterback right now? It's kind of like how when Joe Flacco, when they made the run, like Joe Flacco wasn't perfect.
That's fair.
Joe Flacco had plenty of flaws, but he had X factors to the game that made it so that, you know what, when you have a great roster on him, you can go all the way. And that's exactly what Brock Purdy is too. And when we look back on Joe Flacco, we never don't say, oh, that was not a legendary run. Joe Flacco was not a legend. Like, the reality situation is Brock Purdy's one win away from being a 49ers legend. And on top of that, I think this next game, and Niners fans would agree, win or lose is going to determine so much, I think, the future of the Niners for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Like, this is a big momentum legacy game, and there's just no two ways around it.
I think the thing is, like, if you go into this game and you lose to Mahomes, I think the narrative that building around like a non-elite quarterback and just building like the best roster you can gets shot dead in its tracks. Because it's like you can make it to the Super Bowl, but if you can't beat the best quarterback in the game, even with a way better roster, what does it matter? I mean, like, we saw the Chiefs lose to the Ravens, who statistically have one of the best defenses, have one of the best offenses, is the best rushing team in the NFL. And, like, the game was close, but it kind of always felt like the Chiefs. And it's like...
You meant to say the Ravens lose to the Chiefs. You said Chiefs lose to the...
No, that's what I meant.
I know. Like, I was just thinking, I was like, wait.
No, so you see the Ravens lose to the Chiefs, and it's like kind of going down that path. It's like... You knew deep down the Ravens are the better roster. But, like, watching the game, I was like, the Chiefs have this in the bag.
That's what makes this year wasn't even close.
But this is the thing. Lamar, some would consider an elite quarterback. But you lost to the best in the game. So that is why it's important. You have to have the best quarterback.
Well, and I think this... I'm just going to bring it back to also, like, look, I'm so, like... And I think it shows. It even showed in a sense that game yesterday. There were plenty of moments where you could see visually that Lamar was thinking about the result, not the next play. Like, very frustrated after certain mistakes, when the game is still completely in the balance, you know, getting... And the thing is, too, then, like, look, I'm not trying to sit here and, like, and knock on Lamar. Lamar's a legend, and Lamar is a great quarterback. But yesterday, my thing is, when you get in those situations and you start to get down, and then the team sees you get down, and you're within a possession or two, it's just such not the right look and not the right play on the situation, in my opinion, because then everybody else starts to question the situation. Everyone else starts to worry. Well, you know, are we going in the wrong direction? I think when you are that guy and it's the playoffs, you only should be thinking about the next play, and it has to show. Like, you can't be showing how visibly, you know, concerned you are. And I think that's the thing is you could see the whole second half. Everyone on the Ravens looked like it was like, we need a play now. And it's like, what you really need is consistently good plays. Well, but when you're stuck in that mindset, it's not.
Another thing is, like, with Gus Edwards being one of the best short yardage backs, why are you using Justice Hill so much? And if you look at it, like, I agree with what you're talking about, like, with the Ravens feeling like they need a play right now. Another thing is, like, they were so undisciplined. So many penalties, worthless penalties. Now, I think the Zay Flowers shit was a little overblown because it's like, I think you should be able to taunt. Like, it is what it is, man. It's like a grown man sport. Like, if you can't take a taunt, then, like, I don't know, man. Like, try to draw a penalty from the other team by upsetting them. But I will say this, like, the unsportsman, like the roughing the passers, like, they weren't even questionable. Like, they are, like by the book roughing the passers. And it's like, and they're made by, like, Kyle Van Noy's making this decision. Like, bro, what are you doing?
And now that you said that, we have to also, I almost forgot, but it's very worth mentioning. first half of the game, because second half it was coming alive for sure, regardless of sack numbers. But like first half, some of the most lifeless, abysmal pass rushing I've seen in the playoffs in a really long time. Like so many situations where even if they could just get a smidgen of pressure on Mahomes, that these third down conversions would not have happened. Fourth down conversions even. And it's like, it was genuinely painful. And all the Ravens I've been seeing, it's been a big thing on Twitter. All the Ravens, or X, I'm sorry. All the Ravens fans are very like, it was rigged. Like they weren't calling any holdings, yada, yada. Like if there wasn't any reps that the Ravens were winning where it was blatant enough that it was like complete, even if that is the case, where it was like you were getting by the QB or by the edge and then getting ripped and tugged out. Like that wasn't happening. Like the pass rush was just lifeless, regardless of whether there was a few little holds happening. Like that pass rush was lifeless for the first half of the game. And when you're the not underdog, I was gonna say overdog. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. When you're the big dog, you got to come in putting pressure on Mahomes, and they completely failed to do so. I think that was the biggest thing. That was the most telling thing where I'd say you and me started to say out loud. It's like the Chiefs have this because when you're the big dog and you can't even put pressure on Mahomes, you're screwed. Yeah, like you're screwed.
I forget. Did we just like seamlessly transition into this game? I forgot we even made the jump. I was like, wait. Were we talking about the Niners? I mean, we could keep going on this game. It's not a problem. No,
we kind of like
it was good. That was good. Really good.
We really did just like seamlessly transition over. That's crazy.
I guess my question to you is, Dobbs, like looking at this Baltimore like Kansas City game. So like, what do the Ravens do? Because I fully am under the belief that like they could be a better team next year because like in reality, this is Lamar's new OC. They've only had 1 year. Honestly, I did not expect them to make it this far. Like I thought it was going to take like a year or two in order to like get this offense on like really humming. But it just like in the biggest moment, it just seemed like they crumbled, Like it really did.
Well, it's like, and again, I haven't even talked about it yet. And this was like the main thing I wanted to go into talking about. So I don't know how I forgot to brush over until this point. Todd Monken, he would agree. Worst game he's called probably in his life. Because
it's like he forgot how to call plays.
Well,
it's weird.
Why in the world, against if I'm not mistaken, it was either the 28th or 29th, rushing defense in the league, why are we throwing the ball 37 times and running the ball 14? Like, and not to mention your two lead rushers who had the most rushes, which by the way is only 8 carries and 3 carries. You averaged nearly 7 yards a carry, rounding up with both of them. You would. I'm not like trying to like say this like it's painful. Like they would have won the game if they just had come in with a committed run game plan. Because again, to the point of Ravens fans would agree, Chiefs fans would agree too. Let's be objective. The Chiefs didn't come in and play some great game. Like, the Ravens just came in so flat, like I said, Coca-Cola on the back patio after a barbecue weekend type flat, that it's like, you just didn't seize the opportunity. Like, it's not like the Chiefs came in there and gave you the business, and you're like, oh, man, back to moral victory town type of shit. No, it was like you really just came in with the worst possible game plan and barely got outclassed by a team that wasn't anywhere near up to your standards from a roster building standpoint. Like, it's so abysmal in terms of like the Lions and the Ravens losses are both abysmal in their own way. But in the Ravens sense, the Ravens game plan was just like inexplicable. Truly inexplicable. Especially when you consider how locked down the Kansas City secondary is. It's not like you were throwing it into a midline secondary. Like the Kansas City secondary is absolute, literally locks, padlocks everywhere. Speechless. Honestly, that's the thing I think that makes that Ravens fans would agree most. Like, almost like it felt like a Madden simulation where it's like, oh yeah, the Chiefs just were meant to win this one because the Ravens just if they ran the ball at all, I have no words for it.
Yeah, man. I don't know. It was just like what was the most frustrating thing for me is like as a team, it just felt in the big moment the Ravens kind of could not keep their composure. And when you have a team like the Kansas City Chiefs who have done this so many times, like that's like the one thing you can't do. And my thing is, this is also another argument is like, while I believe they weren't running the ball a ton, only 16 carries on the ground, They gave Lamar the deep shots and he missed. He missed multiple times.
Oh yeah, no, that was another thing I was going to talk about, is because we were here in discourse. Like, everyone always has something to say about, like the pass play calling and stuff with with certain QBs, and I'm like, but everyone, like, they always want to ignore all of the misses that certain quarterbacks are making.
Yeah.
Like, everyone wants to just like praise everyone for all the short intermediate stuff they can hit consistently. This might be crazy for people to hear, but like, a big part of being a QB is being able to consistently hit the deep shot, especially when you're a playoff QB. Like, anybody can be regular, anybody could do it the regular season, and it's all fun and games, right? But when it comes, like, that's why, like I say, January and February, you gotta have somebody who can really sling that thing accurately. It's gonna only get colder, harder to throw the ball, and if you can't put it deep, guess what? A defense is gonna have a fucking field day on you.
Yeah, there's a certain franchise who likes to compare a certain player to Lamar Jackson, who I would argue probably has a better deep ball. But I think we see why it is so important to have the guy who is the better pocket passer.
Yeah, just better throwing under pressure, better deep ball. Like, call us crazy. January and February, bro. When the air is thick and you need someone who can put it right where it needs to be, it's almost like it's crucial. At least if you're not going to run the ball.
Yeah. So Jess, we'll do another video next week kind of talking about the game before it happens. But just kind of thoughts right now. We got the Kansas City Chiefs playing the San Francisco 49ers in Las Vegas. Early picks.
I'd say right now, and again, like, especially after what they just did to the Ravens, I would say, you know what? Mainly with that defense, I'm taking the Chiefs for, again, pedigree. I think we've seen that, and the Chiefs know the recipe is certainly getting pressure on Brock Purdy is how you get him to collapse.
Right.
I think it's going to be an absolute
blitz.
blitz fest, and Spags is just going to say, I'm sending so many zone pressures that we haven't even thrown out this year. And we're going to make Purdy make a few mistakes. Mahomes is going to capitalize on those mistakes. And I think that's the way I see this game going.
Well, that was actually something that I forgot to make a point of, and I'll just brush over quickly, is like when the Lions were crushing the pocket in the first half when they were sending 5, like Brock Purdy like was rattled. He's smaller. Like, he had a hard time getting the ball to his guys. They were sending 4 like all the second half, and it's like, dude, like, Aaron Glenn had coach interviews. What the fuck? But anyway,
don't even get me started.
But for my early picks, I want to go Chiefs too, because it's like, first off, let me just get this out here. I am not a fan of the 49ers. I don't like the Chiefs either, but like, I'd rather have the Chiefs win, because my thing is with the Chiefs, like, they have proven that they can do it over and over and over again. The Niners have been unable to seal the deal since what it was at like 94 or something like that. Let me look up the last San Francisco 49ers Super Bowl. But basically what I'm going to say is like, 94. Mahomes has done it. Mahomes has done it repeatedly. And my thing is, I'm taking the better quarterback in this situation. I think Andy Reid's the better play caller. I think Mahomes the better quarterback. You have stout defenses on both sides, but in my opinion, the Lions were able to move the 49ers defense more than I expected, where it's like, if you have like a hard runner like Pacheco, I feel like they're just going to run at Chase Young all day. So give me Kansas City.
I was going to say, and to that point, I think the Chiefs are going to have a few, and I can already see it in the plow right now. Like, I think it'll be more of a run-heavy game plan. Because here's my thing. Because they know that when they get those safeties down, especially you get Jair Brown down in the box, and then it's time to just go deep with MVS or something along those lines, I think we'll see definitely a fair chunk of that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where the Niners are going to be vulnerable to that, getting them safeties down, and then we've seen, MVS is cooking right now apparently. So
MVS is cooking.
I think, but like it more than anything, it's just we're in this territory. Like, right, saw it with Brady, and now Mahomes is becoming that same 2.0 where pressure doesn't affect him. And then on top of that it's like the confidence that he has literally does translate over to everyone else in the entire roster. You see it happen. We saw it with the Patriots. We're witnessing it with the Chiefs now. I just feel like the Chiefs are going to go in there with a little bit of a different aura. But like I always will say when I do believe it, and I do, I think that the Niners have a very good shot if they can go in there and not be rattled, and they are the better roster. It's not like I'd be shocked if the Niners win. I'm just going to stick with what I know about pedigree, and I've made the mistake literally multiple times already this playoffs. I'm not going to do it again. I keep going against the pedigree knowing that I shouldn't. I'm not. I'm on my
Yeah, I think we're both Chiefs on this. But yeah, no, you got any final thoughts or?
Yeah, I have more once we see the injury report, and we'll chop on it again next week. But as of right now, initially, yeah, I'm definitely going Chiefs, and I think that Mahomes, as of right now, on his way to number 3.
On his way to number 3. All right, well, guys, this has been our championship round wrap up. Thank you for watching You Don't Know Ball. If you do want to know ball, be sure to subscribe. Let us know your early Super Bowl picks in the comments and leave a like. We're growing every day because of you guys, so we appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.